Welcome to C# for Crestron Programming. In this video, we will learn about the static class of Crestron Ethernet Helper. We will see how this powerful class can assist in configuration and monitoring of the Ethernet settings of the processor. Dynamic configuration of the processor itself can be accomplished in many ways, i.e. through the console symbol in simple windows or through SSH connections in combination with console commands. Syntax can become problematic, and the majority of the settings we are interested in here are easily accessed in simple windows through the use of a device extender. In simple windows on the programming side, simply right-click on the Ethernet slot and add the Ethernet device for information extender. This symbol gives access to the feedback from the processor network configuration settings. In C#, this subset of controls is available through the Crestron Ethernet Helper static class. We will be starting with the C# class library .NET framework project called Ethernet Helper. At this point, the NuGet package for Crestron.simplesharp.sdk .program has been installed, and the default class1.cs file has been removed. In our controlsystem.cs file, we have included the using statement for Crestron.simplesharppro.ui, have instantiated and registered a TSW panel within the default control system constructor. System events and all inserted comments have been removed for clarity. When dealing with Ethernet ports, many of the commands used will require an ID number for the port you are working with. We're able to check the number of adapters on the Crestron control system using a built-in property for the number of Ethernet adapters. Before we run this code, however, we will need a way to trigger this method. For this, we'll use a method within the Crestron console class to add a new console command so we can trigger the method directly. This is very useful when developing and testing portions of your program live on a processor. 4 parameters need to be passed into this method: the method to call, the console command you would like to use, help text, and the access level needed to execute the command. The method we need to call will require a string args parameter within its parenthesis as a result. These custom commands are slot-specific. If running this program in any other slot than slot 1, you will need to add a colon, then the slot number of the loaded program. We can see the number of Ethernet adapters is 2. Since we know the processor is a CP4N with 2 adapters, we can then use the Crestron Ethernet Helper method of getAdapterID for specified adapter type and the enum of the Ethernet adapter type to get the IDs we will need. You can see on our output that the LAN port is ID 0 and the control subnet port is ID 1. We will now add in code to pull information about the processor Ethernet configuration from the getEthernet parameter method. The print line statement contains a number of argument substitutions, and in the argument list, we see Crestron Ethernet Helper get Ethernet parameter with the 2 parameters passed in that are required for this method. An enum was used for the appropriate parameter and the ID of the adapter. In this case, 0 for the LAN adapter and 1 for the control subnet port. The Get Ethernet Parameter method will display information. Use the Set Ethernet Parameter method to modify any of the available parameters. Other uses for the Crestron Ethernet Helper class include checking who is connected to a particular IP ID. Now we can add an additional console command. For this example, there is a TSW and an X panel connected to the same IP ID. Therefore, we see two entries. Router configuration is also available through the Crestron Ethernet Helper class. For instance, adding and removing port forwarding entries. Here we have entered some code to add a port forward entry on the router with a small amount of entry validation from our console command argument list. Now, let's add our custom console command. Entering our custom command and hitting the tab will display the help text. And here we see our additional port forwarding entry added to the list. You have now seen how the Crestron Ethernet Helper class can be used to interact directly with the network settings on the processor. Dynamic configuration and failover programming can be greatly simplified with this class. Thank you for watching.